Hello folks, so this is Matt Megane. He's a 1997 February that year Renault Megane 1.6e RXE. I bought him as a very cheap winter hack to basically enable me to put the classics in the garage while still being able to drive when I'm not obviously at work in the company vehicle. It's covered in dents and scuffs, etc. It's not the straightest car alive, but it's a good solid little engine. It's got very low mileage, only it's 67,000 miles, about to hit 68 now. But it does the job very nicely and gets me around as I need to. I'll show you the inside now because it's got quite a fair few amount of gadgets because it's the RXE spec. So the interior is pretty much just a typical old velour. It's got no rear headrest, which I've only just noticed. It does have central locking. It has keep fit rear windows and electrics in the front. It's got a full electric tilt and slide sunroof, which is quite fancy in my books. I've never had that before in a car. It's got also central locking. It's got air conditioning. I think that's recirculation features on it. And it's even got, if we look down here, electric mirrors. Got a switch here that allows you to dim or brighten the dash lights when the headlights are on. That is a feature that on the Mark II 5s is, I think, going on either the Monaco GTX or GT Turbo spec, so it's quite nice for me just to have that sitting there and not have to add it on. This lever here is the equivalent of turning the little things on the side of my old school headlights to make the beam go up or down depending on how much weight's in the car. You've got this steering wheel control here that would, on the original radio, mean you could operate it. Up here we've got a clock and a temperature gauge, which is very handy indeed. And then over to this side is where the radio display normally is, but because I've got a different radio in it at the moment, it's from an earlier car that doesn't have that feature, so everything's just displayed on the front here as a normal old school radio would have had. So you're probably wondering why Renault Megane. Well, first off, a bit of nostalgia because my mum had one when I was very little and always loved it. The definitive feature of my mum's one that I always used to love the most was this sunroof. And it's not just sunroof, it's electric. It tilts and it slides all the way back into the roof. And when I was about 9 years old, I used to get picked up for school at 3. My sister didn't come out till 3:15. So I'd open that up on a nice sunny day and I'd sit on the roof. It was great fun. And then we have a little spare button down here on the dashboard below the heated rear window. And because I was a bit of a crazy Knight Rider fan, any spare buttons in a car at that point in my life had to be either turbo boost, super suit mode, or ski mode or something ridiculous like that, because why not? But yeah, I've always said if I ever get a car that is a bit newer and isn't really a classic quite yet, it would be either a Megane or it would just be a standard classic Renault 11, because my mum had one of those as well and I absolutely love the Renault 11. It's got the same engine as a 5, reliable as hell. We never had a problem with it as far as I can remember, besides the battery going flat, but that's just consumable items. So, but yeah, I always loved the Megane, and I always had this thing when I was little about wanting to own the car that my mum or dad was driving and have one myself at some point in the future. And well, here I am. I'm now doing it. It's quite nice, really. One thing I love about this generation of the Renaults is that they feel solidly built. They don't feel plasticky, and more importantly to me, they're still user maintainable. They're not filled with so many electrics that it sends you into an absolute headache trying to work out what's wrong with it at times. This has literally got a ECU to run the engine, and as far as I know, it's about it. So it's what I like. It's very nice and simple, and the best bit to me is there isn't any electrics operating the throttle. It's cable, and all it does is open the butterfly on the air intake, and then when the air goes through, a little sensor reads it, and then it just sticks all the fuel through the injectors and gets on with it. It's a very simple setup, and one that I can bear, because if something goes wrong, it's still simple enough to be able to actually work it out at home yourself, hopefully. So, but I've always wanted, I've always said if I have to have a newer car, it would be something like this, because I just love this generation of car. I can't really stand the newer ones at all. They just really don't do it for me at all. They just, I can't really explain it, but they're just not for me. So, but yeah, I've done the cam belt and water pump on this one, because when I got it, it had no history at all. It was obvious that the auxiliary belts and timing belt had all been done recently. Well, recently, within probably the last year or so, because they all still had that shiny look to them. And the amount of broken clips I was finding on the way in from all the trim you have to take off to get to it was kind of, someone's been here before. But I've done the whole lot myself anyway, put a new belt and I put a new water pump on, purely because if that snaps, it's game over, the car is scrap. But so I've done that. I've done a full service as well, so it's had new plugs, oil filter, air filter, etc. And because I found that the other cam I took off, it was actually not going to be reusable anyway, because there was an oil leak from the rocker cover gasket, and it had basically covered the entire belt, all the pulleys and the timing cover itself in so much oil. It just really wasn't worth, because once the belt's contaminated with oil, it's a known thing, you just throw it away anyway, because it can easily doesn't do the belt any good, put that away, so that makes it more susceptible to potentially snapping. So yeah, but I've done all that, and so far I've done nearly 1,000 miles and had absolutely no issues with this car at all. So yeah, little niggles here and there that are just typical problems that a Megane used to have, but nothing that I'm concerned about. So I'm just leaving it all as, and just using it. So yeah.